Alright, welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is March 15th, 2018. Doing a quick little update. Before we get started, I have a presentation ready to play for you guys. Mari has worked on the beginning of what we're going to be calling the learning series of the Grand Solar Minimum. Now today's video is about 5 minutes long. It goes over the ranking of geomagnetic storms and the KP indice levels that have to be there for these storms. I'll go ahead and get this started. That way we can get on with the space weather update as well for today and your weather update.
Thank you for tuning in to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today I'd like to cover how a geomagnetic storm is ranked. A geomagnetic storm is a temporary disturbance of the Earth's magnetosphere associated with solar coronal mass ejections, coronal holes, or solar flares. A geomagnetic storm is caused by a solar wind shock wave, which typically strikes the Earth's magnetic field 24 to 36 hours after the event. Storms result in intense currents in the magnetosphere, changes in the radiation belts, and changes in the ionosphere, including heating the ionosphere and upper atmosphere region called the thermosphere. In space, a ring of westward current around the Earth produces magnetic disturbances on the ground. A measure of this current, the disturbance storm time, or DST index, has been used historically to characterize the size of a geomagnetic storm. In addition, there are currents produced in the magnetosphere that follow the magnetic field called field-aligned currents, and these connect to intense currents in the auroral ionosphere. These auroral currents, called the auroral electrojets, also produce large magnetic disturbances. Together, all these currents and the magnetic deviations they produce on the ground are used to generate a planetary geomagnetic disturbance index called KP. This index is the basis for one of the 3 NOAA space weather scales, the geomagnetic storm, or G scale, that is used to describe space weather that can disrupt systems on Earth. NOAA's 5-level system, the G scale, is used to indicate the severity of both observed and predicted geomagnetic activity. This scale is used to give quick indication of the severity of a geomagnetic storm. This scale ranges from G1 to G5, with G1 being the lowest level and G5 being the highest level. Conditions below storm level are labeled as G0, but this value is not commonly used. Every G level has a certain KP value associated with it. G1 is a minor storm. G2 is moderate. G3 is a strong storm. G4 is severe. And G5 is an extreme storm. With G5 storms, our power systems may experience widespread voltage control problems, and protective system problems can occur. Some grid systems may experience complete collapse or blackouts. Transformers may experience damage. Spacecraft operations may experience extensive surface charging, problems with orientation, and tracking satellites. High-frequency radio propagation may be impossible in many areas for 1 or 2 days. Satellite navigation may be degraded for days. Low-frequency radio navigation can be out for hours, and aurora has been seen as low as Florida and southern Texas. According to NOAA, this happens an average of 4 days per 11-year solar cycle. With a G4 storm, possible widespread voltage control problems and some protective systems may mistakenly trip out key assets from the grid. Spacecraft operations may experience surface charging and tracking problems. Corrections may be needed for orientation problems. High-frequency radio propagation may be sporadic. Satellite navigation degraded for hours. Low-frequency radio navigation disrupted. And aurora has been seen as low as Alabama and Northern California. According to NOAA, this happens an average of 60 days per 11-year solar cycle. A G3 is a strong storm. Voltage corrections may be required, false alarms triggered on some protection devices, surface charging may occur on satellite components, drag may increase on low Earth orbit satellites, and corrections may be needed for orientation problems. Intermittent satellite navigation and low-frequency radio navigation problems may occur. High-frequency radio may be intermittent, and aurora has been seen as low as Illinois and Oregon. According to NOAA, this happens an average of 130 days per 11-year solar cycle. With a G2 moderate storm, high-altitude power systems may experience voltage alarms, and long-duration storms may cause transformer damage. With spacecraft, corrective actions to orientation may be required by ground control. There may be possible changes in drag effect of orbit predictions. High-frequency radio propagation can fade at higher latitudes, and aurora has been seen as low as New York and Idaho. According to NOAA, this happens an average of 360 days per 11-year solar cycle. With a G1 storm, this is very minor. Weak power grid fluctuations may occur. Minor impact on satellite operations are possible. With G1 or higher storms, migratory animals are affected, and aurora is commonly visible at higher altitudes, including northern Michigan and Maine. According to NOAA, this happens an average of 900 days per 11-year solar cycle. We hope this has been helpful. Thanks for tuning in. Please like and share.
Okay, so Mari did a wonderful job there, and the reason why this was done was there's so many stories out there on the internet about a massive solar storm that's heading towards Earth by the 18th of March. And I even saw something in Facebook from a local news channel in Dayton, Ohio, that also had a clickbait title about a solar storm to hit Earth. I think the thing that frustrates Mari and I the most is that dealing with this on a daily basis, we know that a G1 geomagnetic class storm is not that big of a deal. However, there are folks out there, because there was a time where we weren't aware of what a G1 meant either. So we felt with all the fake news and the hoopla out there about this geomagnetic storm that we're supposed to get, Mari did a wonderful job on breaking it down, each level, each KP indice, to show us exactly what we're looking at. When you hear next time that someone says we're having a G1, you'll know that that's the minor of all the geomagnetic storms. And actually, we don't even really see any kind of result from a geomagnetic storm. And honestly, what, G5? We had a G4 back in September this year, and it was a strong solar storm that we had. Of course, you guys remember 2017 in September, where February had a very let's just say unique month, or September was a very unique month. Solar activity was very high. So here we are at a grand solar minimum channel talking about a minimum, and the sun acts like it's in a maximum in September of 17. But that was just a flurry of action. That might have been the last hoorah from the sun until we get out of this minimum. So again, we wanted to show that video. I think Mari has done an amazing job on trying to be simple and get the information that everyone can look at and understand. That way it's not just certain channels that have to break it down to you. And again, this is the way the Grand Solar Minimum channel wants you to learn for yourself. We want to help you understand the information that you're receiving from these reports. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead now and jump over to spaceweather.com. Take a look at our solar conditions. We are looking at solar wind speeds at 479.3 kilometers per second with a density of 8.1. Guess what? No sunspots once again for our sun. That's 12 days in a row, 40 days now in 2018. Folks, we are well on our way into this minimum. The KP indices, as you just learned, is at a 3 right now. So we are below storm levels, and even our 24-hour max, we are still below storm levels. So very mild geomagnetic activity happening right now to our magnetosphere, and nothing more than a G1 is predicted in the coming days. So good news on that. And I'll go ahead and take a look at the coronal hole on the SDO real fast. Let's do the beta free thing real fast here. All right, so taking a look at our sun today, it looks a little bit weaker on the corona. There is the tail end of the coronal hole that we're receiving the solar wind from. Now, where the end of this coronal hole is, we will see the end result of that solar wind stream somewhere around the 16th or the 17th. But again, nothing more than a G1 minor solar storm coming our way. Even with these weaker areas on the sun, on the eastern limb, where we start to see some new development of coronal hole action, that's going to be minor as well, and we'll just see probably just a sharp incline of solar wind speeds, if that at all. So right now we're in a very calm 1 geomagnetic storm, if that. Taking a look at our TSI, our last reading was for March 7th, 2018. And again, it slightly rose to 1361.157, up a notch from its last reading of 1361.13. So as I explained yesterday, this is a very slow progress. We went from 0.13 to 0.15. So if that's an increase, that's just barely an increase, if anything. But our TSI is going to fluctuate up and down on a daily basis, if not weekly basis. So wanted to give a quick report on that. Let's go ahead and take a look at our friends at the North Pole. Hello, guys. -7 degrees Celsius, and I'll go ahead and leave it on Celsius, since apparently us Americans are the pesky ones around here, have to have everything in Fahrenheit. -33.9. -35.9 Celsius, -8.8 Celsius, -4.5 Celsius. I'm trying to find areas that might be warm and try to at least debunk myself if the Arctic is warming, and I'm having a lot of problems finding anywhere that's above freezing right now. I hear laughing. Mari, what's going on?
You always make me laugh when you do this, Jake. I'm sorry.
Just searching for the warm... Well, look, people obviously don't know how to read, and I'm not talking about you folks that are subscribed to our channel. I'm talking about those global warmists out there who take a 6-hour temperature anomaly and try to tell everybody that we're melting, that the North Pole is melting.
Well, they totally deny the fact that, like, it's possible volcanoes might be melting, like, things as well, even though there was a paper out recently about it.
Yeah. But yes, I'm doing this to amuse our friends over there in the global warming community, to show you that we're not melting, and I don't see any kind of melt happening anytime soon. I did find a balmy 2.4 degrees above Celsius.
I like it when you use the word balmy.
It's balmy.
For negative, like, how much Celsius?
-32.1 Celsius, but
balmy.
Over here it's a balmy 4. A balmy -4.2. I don't think it really matters at this point.
Okay, Jake.
So, with that being said, I want to go back to our website. There was one other thing that I wanted to look at. Today, been kind of a quiet day as far as like what we normally are used to with our weather and our updates. So this gave me some time to kind of check out some of these links that we have. And I love this one right here, because earlier today, I saw where Tillerson was dumped at Secretary of State, and I thought maybe it had something to do with him claiming about the Russians being involved with this unfortunate incident that happened in the UK. But now I'm starting to wonder if I heard Trump say that the Russians might have been involved as well. So it wasn't that, and now I'm starting to wonder if this whole climate denier thing is true. The person that Donald Trump has picked to replace Mike Pompeo is a bigger climate denier than anyone else in Trump's administration. And, it's good news for us, people who are following this topic. And Myron Abel also agrees. He expects very good things from the state. He expects very good things from him at the State Department, meaning I think this might be the narrative or the opening for enough is enough with the global warming nonsense. No more of this fake news of carbon, CO2 being the leader in what is driving our climate. And as I put here earlier today, CO2 does not drive the climate. This is an article that I went to Robert Felix's website, icagenow.info. And he has a little presentation about man-made climate change, CO2. Very good presentation. The person in the video is Dr. Chuck Weiss. He has a degree in atmospheric science, so this is kind of his specialty. This is not just some guy who's worked around solar products or whatnot. He is an actual expert in atmospheric science. I encourage everyone to take a look at this video on icagenow.info. This is the petition that you've heard so much about, where people have signed, 31,000 scientists have signed this petition, and the words that are quoted in this document is: there's no convincing scientific evidence that human release of carbon dioxide, methane, or other greenhouse gases is causing or will cause catastrophic heating of the Earth's atmosphere. So very important piece of paper today. 31,000 scientists jumped on board and signed this as well. So very exciting news for folks who are in the global community, global cooling community. And, you know, we have been working very hard to show the truth to everyone, and I'm very thankful to start seeing that we're getting some attention, not just a bunch of what ifs and hypotheticals. All right, we'll go ahead and take a look at our weather, and I'm going to stop it right here. I need to get the dates involved. I know how you people like the dates. And let me see if I could do this real quick. Trying to get the controls in here. Oh, they're up there. Great. So here we go. Let me scroll this down just a little so you guys can see the dates. And we start with Friday, tomorrow. Today is just about over. Nothing really going on. We got some development going on in the Central Plains. Now, I want to talk about the South real quick. The Mississippi Southern Valley. The Southern Mississippi Valley, I should say. We have severe thunderstorm warnings now. Potential for severe threat now for the next 3 days. Friday, Saturday, and possibly early Sunday. This region in this South right here, your Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Tennessee, you guys saw a lot of rain in February. And now that we're starting to see the temperature starting to regulate to closer to spring-like conditions, here is more rain to the area that doesn't need it. And also, we are on the weather.com has got the Torcon at 3. So there's an elevated chance for tornado activity. And what they're worried about is, as you see right here, this storm system, this is separate. What's not showing up on the map here on Saturday is in Mississippi and Louisiana, there's going to be a lot of development here from the Gulf. There's going to be a lot of moisture with a lot of pop-up storms that will come, and that's where they're worried about the tornadoes, is these pop-up little popcorn storms that are going to be coming through. Here's our system for this weekend that we are going to see move very quickly off to the coast. There it is. Sunday morning, it's gone. So some very light snow accumulations in the Columbus, Ohio area, the southeast part of Pennsylvania, and mostly in rain, anywhere probably Columbus and south in Ohio. So this is a quick system. Now, this so-called nor'easter number 4, I know I'd said as early as last Friday that this could be number 4. I'm starting to wonder if this system is falling apart. Here we are on the 19th of March. A very good low pressure system has started to begin to build here in the middle of our country with snow on the north end side of this. Now, as we move into March 20th, we notice that this storm system is mainly in the area where we see warmer air. Notice where all the cold is, high pressure is built in, not seeing a whole lot of precipitation yet. Now we go through Tuesday, still, the only threat that I see right now on inland from this storm system right here is an icing threat that we might have from southeast Indiana all the way through the Dayton area, Lima, reaching as far east as Columbus. You guys might get some of this as well, but there might be a slight icing event on the 12th, on Tuesday. Let's move this thing a little bit farther. By Wednesday, the GFS models have this thing on the coast, and I like what I'm seeing here just for the sake of the folks. Well, I spoke too soon. So there's actually two systems that do develop along this storm system, and the second one does hug the coast a little bit better than originally thought. See right here, everything that's in the Atlantic, that's part of the original system. That does move off into the middle of the Atlantic, but look what happens here on the back end. A low pressure system rebuilds in the same area. And now we're looking at more of a snow event in Ohio and Indiana and Virginia and southern Pennsylvania. And as we move through Thursday, same time frame, the coast, once again, Boston, New England, New York, Philly, New Jersey, you guys are going to get the brunt of this system before it finally moves off the coast. So maybe I spoke too soon. These models change, guys, almost every 3 hours. We're seeing a different forecast. Now, the nor'easter here on the coast, the only good news I have for you folks up there in the Northeast is that it looked like models earlier were suggesting that it wasn't going to snow quite as much. But that, to me, seems to be a little different now as well. We see heavier snowfall right along the coast. I mean, look at this. The same areas that just got dumped on 20, 30 inches of snow, you guys are in for more snow within less than 7 days. And I'm going to stop the forecasting right here. This is the 24th. This is next Saturday. So this is farther. This is far enough. I don't want to go any farther because we do see a lot of things on the GFS that falls apart by the end of our forecast. But I'm stopping right here on the 24th, and I want to go back, and I want us to shift our focus on the west and the south, of course. Here in the western part of the United States, our storm system gets going. I mean, it doesn't take long to move off into the middle plains of the United States. Now, pay attention to what's going on back behind it. This storm moves off. We get another round of rain for California. That kind of lingers around until about Sunday this weekend. Now, here is the storm that we are tracking for the nor'easter. It's in the Four Corner states right now, but notice how California gets about 3 days worth of moisture and then it dries up a little bit, but it's not all there. Watching the storm system we've already reviewed. Watch what happens here on the west coast. Another system approaching by the 21st of March. Now, also, wanted to point out as well, what's very important about the 21st of March is when we are supposed to swing out of that negative phase of the Greenland block. Now, according to this GFS, this is a little bit slower, but we do come back to a warm-up phase by the 24th, where temperatures start to get more spring-like here in the Northeast and the East. But look at this, a complete pattern reversal. Once that warm air comes back up here into the east and the northeast, look at the west. Now we're back to colder temperatures. Now we're looking at more snow across the plains and the northern plains and towards the mountainous areas in the northwest. So there will be some relief to most of the country by the end of the month. However, going out farther than I wanted to, just to see if this GFS is holding up. And so far, the temperature forecast, for which I had actually talked about yesterday, I don't see a trend where we are going to see anything like a deep freeze in the United States after this this coming up storm, this nor'easter number 4. I actually see quite the opposite. And here we are at March 31st. Look at this, guys. I mean, I know Farmland USA is going to enjoy these 60s and 70s by the end of the month. This is what we need, folks. We are so far behind right now on planting, with flooding that's happening right now, with all the weather that's been happening. Farmers across the country. Yeah, that would probably help, huh? By the way, California, you're getting the rain that you need. Definitely, for sure. You guys have been in a serious drought, but here comes the second part of this danger with this drought here in California. I'm going to let these temperatures just play through. we've already talked about it once. We had a record year in fires out on the West Coast. And the biggest concern now with spring around the corner and some of these big storm systems that are moving in onto the West Coast is landslides and flooding. And just noticing here towards the end of the month, the last week of March, folks, so far, the Polar Vortex Prediction Center has given us a positive for past the 21st. And so far, the GFS temperatures are holding true to that we will see some warm up towards the end of March. Finally, spring-like conditions. Folks like Michigan, you guys are going to start seeing temperatures in the 40s and hopefully 50s soon. But by the time we get to March 25th, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, Wisconsin, those northern states are starting to see a little bit more spring-like conditions. So good news for all of us who've been suffering this winter. And I'm going to tell you, the last time I can remember a winter this rough, I was a kid, and that was in the 80s. So we definitely, for right now, let's cross our fingers that this nor'easter is our last major winter storm that's coming through on the East Coast. I know there's a lot of folks ready for the warm weather, and like I said, I don't think I've ever remembered shoveling this much snow in my life. And I know that's kind of a biased comment. I lived in Ohio most of my life. Being in Buffalo, this is my second year up here, but I've never seen the amount of snow in one. And here's the thing, Mari has told me that this is normal up here. So I can't wait to see what above normal looks like. Actually, I can wait. I don't want that at all. Mari, is there anything that you would like to add tonight, or is there any questions from the chat that anyone had that you think I might be able to answer?
No, just have a great group of people in the chat, as always, chatting just about the weather. People are, just enjoying the community. I'm glad we're doing this more on a daily basis, more at a regular time frame. To get to chat with you guys. It's been really a pleasure. But as for any questions or anything in the chat, people are talking about a big earthquake. We're on like an earthquake watch right now. We were talking about this earlier. What was the date you were guessing, Jake?
Well, it's based on what we've seen so far. And Ben Davidson also has got us on a watch for another week for 8.0 or higher. Right now, with these solar storms, the way they're coming in, I think and this might be cheating here, but possibly between the 18th and the 23rd of March. So I'm curious to see that. Those are my guesses. I'm not claiming to be an earthquake expert, but you do happen to learn some things while you study, such as the grand solar minimum. So I'm hoping that I'm applying my knowledge the correct way, and hopefully if I can get a better understanding on what's going on in the grand solar minimum, I know you folks at home will be able to figure this out too, and that's a promise. All right, well, there's nothing else going on here, I'm going to go ahead and cut it for the night. Did you have anything else? Nothing?
I didn't have anything else. I'm going to work on getting some new videos out. I really did. I spent the day doing that geomagnetic storm video. I thought it would be beneficial for many people. So as for news updates and that, I'm a little behind on that. I will have Papua New Guinea update to let you know on how the people are the recovery efforts there. I did put a video yesterday about Kadovar Island, how they've been evacuated and pretty much cannot come back. That's a different scenario. I will have another video out following up on the other issue. So yeah, they're suffering down there.
There's going to be there's going to be tons of follow-up between the 3, possibly 4 nor'easters. The South is getting ready to go through a bout of severe weather outbreak this weekend, probably into early next week as well. Because looking at this GFS run here, it's system after system after system. One goes off the East Coast, another one forms in the Four Corners. That makes its way to the East Coast. It's off the East Coast. Here comes the West Coast with another large low-pressure system that continues to develop throughout the country. So lots of weather, as I've said every night, guys. It does change every day. Believe it or not, these storms can do whatever they want. And we're still 5 days out from this next supposed nor'easter. But looking at the GFS models right now, it does look like it's going to be a strong coastal snow event. Who knows, though? It could fall apart, folks. It's going to be right on that line of where the positive and negative swing comes from with the polar vortex. And if we swing into that positive earlier, that could help with the track of this storm and may just push it off to sea. All right, guys, that's going to do it for us today. Make sure you please like and share. Stay tuned as we will come in with any more grand solar minimum updates as needed as well. Guys, we'll talk soon.
Electrojets also produce large magnetic disturbances. Together, all these currents and the magnetic deviations they produce on the ground are used to generate a planetary geomagnetic disturbance index called KP. This index is the basis for one of the 3 NOAA space weather scales, the geomagnetic storm, or G scale, that is used to describe space weather that can disrupt systems on Earth. NOAA's 5-level system, the G scale, is used to indicate the severity of both observed and predicted geomagnetic activity. This scale is used to give quick indication of the severity of a
Alright, welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is March 15th, 2018. Doing a quick little update. Before we get started, I have a presentation ready to play for you guys. Mari has worked on the beginning of what we're going to be calling the learning series of the Grand Solar Minimum. Now today's video is about 5 minutes long. It goes over the ranking of geomagnetic storms and the KP
in the magnetosphere, changes in the radiation belts, and changes in the ionosphere, including heating the ionosphere and upper atmosphere region called the thermosphere. In space, a ring of westward current around the Earth produces magnetic disturbances on the ground. A measure of this current, the disturbance storm time, or DST index, has been used historically to characterize the size of a geomagnetic storm. In addition, there are currents produced in the magnetosphere that follow the magnetic field called field-aligned currents, and these connect to intense currents in the auroral ionosphere. These auroral currents, called the auroral
into sea levels that have to be there for these storms. I'll go ahead and get this started. That way we can get on with the space weather update as well for today and your weather update.
Thank you for tuning in to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today I'd like to cover how a geomagnetic storm is ranked. A geomagnetic storm is a temporary disturbance of the Earth's magnetosphere associated with solar coronal mass ejections, coronal holes, or solar flares. A geomagnetic storm is caused by a solar wind shock wave which typically strikes the Earth's magnetic field 24 to 36 hours after the event. Storms result in intense current